people of color and BIPOC people and LGBTQIA people and women are minority groups.
Well, okay, hang on. So, if you think you can discriminate on people based on political affiliation, because you can't.
It's not discrimination.
Yeah, that would fall under discrimination laws. Yes, it would.
What? What? No.
Yes. 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 It's quite illegal to do.
What?
Yes. Do you think a
Not
hospital can deny you service because you're MAGA?
so that is not what I
Uh,
said.
well, then
I'm
what are you
talking like a
talking? What are you
positive.
talking
I'm
about? A
talking like
hospital
in the
can't be
stance of a
like, you get out of
hospital.
here,
I'm
MAGA
not
guy.
I'm not talking. Well, the nurse has the right to refuse to care for you if she doesn't
She would have to
align
have.
with your beliefs.
No, she
She would
doesn't. She
replace you with
only.
another
No, she
nurse.
doesn't.
Yeah, she would replace you with another nurse.
That's incorrect. Why are you muting me, by the way? We're just having a
Wait,
combo.
I'm not muting you. It's my
Yeah. So
mods.
anyway, no, they don't. A nurse would have to give a show cause for why they refused it. Something that would fall under the oaths that they took for being caregivers. They actually have to give some sort of just cause. It can't be like, oh, you have a MAGA hat, so we're not going to serve you. Of course, you can't discriminate against people based on political affiliation any more than their sexuality. That's just absurd.
No,
Where
I
did you get
mean,
that idea? Like,
wait,
where did you get
mods.
that idea?
You don't think a nurse can't be like, well, I don't want to care for this person because it's against my beliefs. Here's a new nurse that would agree more with your stance or does not care.
I mean, maybe you could have some hospital somewhere under some religious affiliation where that's possible, but for the most part, they have to sign all sorts of agreements on who they would agree to give care to before they even get employed. And no, they really can't. They really can't deny service unless they have good cause to do so.
Here, how about you can talk to a doctor?
Yeah, sure. Bring a doctor on here. I don't care. They're just going to agree with me.
Why can pharmacists deny birth control prescriptions?
What?
Uh,
In
can
many states, that's actually legal. Yeah.
Yeah, is that based on what they perceive as the health and welfare of their patient,
No, it's
though?
based on their non-immutable characteristic, which is their religious belief.
So what do you mean by this, though? Walk me through how
It's
this
really
works.
not a hard question, Andrew.
Well, just walk me through how it works.
Can you tell me how you understand what I said first?
Well, it sounds to me like you're saying that pharmacists can, for any reason, deny birth
Yep.
control pills. Okay, can where and what is this law called?
I can go find it for you, but
Find
in
it
many
for me.
states, this is very
Oh, in many
prevalent knowledge right
states.
now.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay, and there. So the process for this is they can just do it at any time for any reason they
they
want.
can do it based on religious beliefs and disagreeing with birth control.
Prove it.
Okay, hold on.
Are you gonna look for the Florida one,
Yeah, I
Dr.
can
P?
pull up the Florida one too about denying LGBTQ people based on religious bullcrap too.
Okay.
Religious people get so pampered.
Not pampered enough.
Uh, what makes you say that?
Well, I mean, I think that
I mean, you could
I
send your
think that.
kids to school with an unaliving device around their neck.
What does that mean? What's in?
Right. So the thing that unalived Jesus Christ, right? Brutally, you send kids to school with that
That
around their
you
neck.
mean the cross? You think the cross is what unalive Jesus Christ?
What else would have done it?
Romans with nails.
Oh, okay. So the fact of the act that took place on that cross, which was an execution device,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem problematic to send little children to school with that
No,
around their
no.
neck.
Taking the symbol of something,
Oh.
taking the symbol of something,
So
and
what about
that which was
flags?
bad and making it good is a good thing. Like what are you
But it's
talking
not
about?
good.
Yeah, well,
What
it's
what
a
good?
symbol of
So is it?
holiness. Yes.
What is holiness?
Well, I mean, why?
I mean, he had a lot of holes, that's for sure. But what
Okay.
is
Are
holiness?
you is the goal here like, oh, I'm gonna try to
No,
trigger
it
the
seems like you're
Christian?
very triggered already about the
Oh,
Christians.
I don't sound triggered. I don't care what you think about.
You're laughing like a madman right
Mhm.
now.
Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, do you have the law
So
now?
so what happens?
What happens when you show me the law? What's the law
No, I
called?
want to know about this
Yeah, but I
cross.
want to
So
know
it
what the
was
law is
a good
called.
thing that somebody got
Yeah.
nailed to it.
Anyway, can you tell me
It
what
was
the
a
law
good
is?
thing that somebody got
Can you
nailed
can
to
you tell
it.
me what the law is now?
Well, I want to know what holiness is first, and
Yeah,
then
but
why
I
it was a
want
good
to.
thing that
Yeah,
somebody got
but
executed on the
but I
cross.
want to know what the law is. Let's do one claim at a
You'll
time.
know. You'll know after if you can play along.
I'm playing along. Give me the law.
Okay, no.
Okay, well then I don't know where to take that from there. we'll do one
you
claim at a
got
time.
really upset when I brought up Jesus Christ getting nailed to a cross, and you said, "Well, that's not bad."
When did I get upset?
You said that's not bad.
So
You said it was a bunch of Romans.
yeah, what does that have to do with me being upset though?
Well, you seem to be trying to make excuses for it,
Excuses for what?
like why you're sending kids to school with this unalivement tool around their necks, and that's okay.
Do kids unalive people with crosses?
I mean, the implications, like, what if my kid, who's an atheist, sees it and goes and looks it up and sees this horrific scene,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I don't want them, like, having their eyes, their young, precious eyes, seeing that.
I'm sorry.
And it's kind of putting in everybody's face when you have a cross on every fucking...
At what
photo
age
I've
should they
ever seen.
learn about abortions, though?
That's science.
Oh, okay. So I mean, as long as you're unaliving a
it's
little
healthcare.
baby in the womb, that's fine. Just not.
Well, it's not a little
just,
baby. You can personize it like that. Yeah. That's
Well, yeah, because it's a person.
it's not sentient. It doesn't have any. Valuable
you
characteristics that
can't
we consider.
demonstrate that personhood
We
starts
can,
with
actually.
sentience. Yeah, go ahead and do it. When
Yeah,
does
so there
science
are
agree it's
many
human
papers
life?
written about this. Yeah, so
Okay.
you don't get to dictate what is or is not science.
You don't,
based
well,
on
you don't
your
get to
religious
determine
beliefs.
that sentience is what the requirement is for humanity either.
Well, it's what we value.
That's not what we value. Or do you kill
Oh, I
people
don't
in
walk
comas?
around
Do you
saying,
kill people in
"That's a nice
comas? Do you?
bundle of
I'm sorry,
DNA."
unalive. Do you unalive people in comas?
Potentially, yeah, depending on
You
the
do?
outcome.
You just walk around unaliving people in comas? Do you?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. Do you?
Clearly, you're not a healthcare provider.
So you don't care?
And you don't know about palliative care.
So you don't care about? So people in comas have no value to you as humans then, because they're
I
not
didn't say no
sentient.
value.
Well, but they're not
They have been
sentient.
born and they had a sentient.
But they're not
And
sentient.
we would act through their families, right?
Yeah, but why would it matter
Like
if they
their
had
next of kin, which would be
previously?
no different than the next of kin.
That's
being
really
probably
weird.
The person that
Why does
harvests.
previous
me?
sentience matter?
Right?
Excuse me.
Because they've established meaning.
Excuse me, Dr. P. Can we get back to the subject at hand?
Yes.
Because I feel like this is like derailed a while ago.
Yeah, we have derailed a lot of things. Thank you, Katie.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Hey, I'm just along for the ride here, guys.
He's Andrew
I can
cares
tell.
about babies.
I understand that he is pro-life. Um, I watched his show multiple
Yes.
times.
Yes, he's a little baby lover.
Um,
You're kind of a sick person, man.
so let's go back to the topic where we're at hand, refusing care,
Yeah.
or refusing services or friends and family just because they vote based on their votes.
Yeah, so
Well,
I think the recap there was you and I agreed on freedom of association that you thought it would be fine, and I thought it would be
Yeah.
fine to cut ties with people due to politics, sexuality, basically whatever it is that you wanted to, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to associate with a friend that votes against my rights.
Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense from your view. Why you would
Mhm.
want to cut ties with people who you. I mean, I'm guessing you think these people are something akin to evil or something like that, right?
I don't think MAGA's evil. I think more they're uneducated, but definitely not evil.
Okay, well, maybe at the very least dangerous to you in some
If you're,
capacity.
I mean, Proud Men are those Proud Boys, quote unquote, are dangerous. Yes.
Well, and just the fact that these people vote against things which you would consider things which
Yes.
are rightfully your rights.
Yes.
That would be
women's
you would
health care, abortion,
yeah.
LGBT rights.
So you would consider that to be
and the
threatening,
constant
right?
unalive- Of course.
Yeah. Okay, so that totally makes sense to me. So if the case is you feel like the political opposition is generally a threat to you and you want to disassociate with them, I mean, I don't have an issue with that. I'm just saying that under the law, that's actually very difficult to do. Especially to discriminate against people on their sexuality. I would be all for it. Like I'd be fine with bar owners being like, no gays allowed.
Is a minority group. Yeah, no, gay people are a minority group, so it would be a different situation.
Yeah, but I don't. That's the part I don't understand. Like, why suddenly, when it becomes a minority group, does your opinion on this change? If you're really for freedom of association, why would that even matter?
Right, so if we're gonna bring this back to if you ran a restaurant and you said no people of color allowed,
Yeah.
that would obviously be very bad opinion and that very bad for business. Do you not think so?
Yeah, but that's not consistent with your view because your view is you should have the freedom to associate with whoever you want based on however you perceive them to be a threat. You just admitted that. So if it's the case that a private business, Well, this is your view.
Wait, do you consider these
Y-
minority groups to be a threat?
well, whether I do or don't, if somebody did, in order for you to be consistent with your view, you would have to say that they should have the ability to discriminate against that group, right?
Well, groups are threatening us, yeah.
Well, no, not just groups you perceive as being threatening. That's what you said. As long as you just perceive them as being a threat to you. That's why we covered
Define
all of that
perceive. Yeah, define perception or perceived.
from your view. They're a threat to
Okay,
you.
so from my view,
Hmm.
yeah, no, minority groups are not perceived to be dangerous.
Yeah,
It's
right.
actually
But
quite the
other people
opposite.
have different perceptions than you. So if they perceived it that way,
Mm-hmm.
in order to be consistent with your principle of freedom of association, why wouldn't they be
Mm-hmm.
able to discriminate if they wanted to? That doesn't make any sense.
To discriminate against a minority group is very much different than discriminating
What's
against
the
MAGA, because
difference?
MAGA's not a minority group.
Why does that matter, though, for the consistency of the principle?
Um, because of different forms of principles. Hello, what
What's
principle?
what's the difference in the form of principle you're applying here? Freedom of association would be freedom of
Yeah,
association, right?
yes and
So
no, because it's association with a minority group that you're trying to get freedom of, right?
yeah, but why?
Which also can be harmful.
But then, under that logic, you couldn't actually disassociate yourself from LGBTQ people either, because they're a minority group. You see, like how that's
If
now
it's
inconsistent.
yes,
Well, then that's
right, but
inconsistent.
if it's your friend group, it depends. If it's your friend group, yeah, you can dissociate from whomever you
Why
want.
would it be immoral for your friend to do it, but not a business owner?
Um, because a business owner, hello, what?
Yeah, answer.
So
Yeah, I
so
don't understand. There's no consistency here at all.
yeah, no, because first of all, if we're gonna talk about consistency, so
Yeah, let's talk about
when it
consistency.
comes
Yeah.
when we're gonna talk about friend group, okay, that's different. That there's no moral stance when it comes to friends, right? My
Yeah, but
moral stance is
if
the
your
harm
friend
reduction.
discriminating against you and you're a minority, why that
Hmm.
okay, but business discriminating against you because you're a minority, that not okay? If you run that business, what's the difference?
Because then it comes with the harm of minority groups.
So does the friendship thing. Both of them come with harm.
No.
Yeah.
How does me ending a friendship harm other
The
people?
same way that you denying business would, it would hurt their feelings.
No, businesses can actually harm actual people
So, well, I mean, so can
because
yeah.
it harms economically, right? So if you have a big business and you are refusing care to a minority group, it can harm both economy, it can harm both the surroundings of that
Yeah,
business,
but so could
and
denying
more.
service to anybody, including MAGA people. So if you denied service to MAGA people, all those same arguments
Well,
would
MAGA
apply.
is not a
Yeah,
minority,
but
so
so
no, it
what?
wouldn't.
If the reasons you would deny my MAGA, if the same arguments apply to that, then you can't use it and be consistent against minority groups. That makes no sense.
Because again, MAGA's not wait, what? MAGA's not a minority.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't
again,
need to
there's a big
be.
difference.
Why would
Yes,
it
it
need to
does,
be?
because
It,
minorities are constantly harmed.
yes, but
Are you just dismissing that?
no, but if you make the claim, this is the consistency check. This is why this doesn't make any sense. If you make the claim we can discriminate against MAGA because they're not a minority group, and you go, okay, well, what's the difference if you're discriminating between them and a minority group? You say, well, because it can economically hurt and it can do bad things and have bad results on the people. But that same exact stuff will still apply to MAGA people. So what special status do minorities suddenly get because they're minorities? I don't get that.
Do you not know what a minority is?
Yeah, I know what it is. You're giving me a subcategory, but you're not telling me why it's worse to discriminate against them than it would be to MAGA. Why is that worse?
Be because MAGA constantly harm minorities.
What that you're talking about harming MAGA though. So you're just saying that as long as you harm people, you can other people can harm you? Like I don't understand what's the
That is
consistency
not what
here.
I'm saying.
Well, then what's the consist Go.
Minorities are not harming anyone. That's a consistency.
Yeah, but if you're saying if
Who
I
am I hurting
deny
for being? Wait,
yeah.
Andrew. Who am
Mhm.
I hurting for being a trans BIPOC woman?
Uh, well, like it hurting how? I can make arguments that you're hurting people
Yeah, how am
socially.
I? How?
Well, if you're advocating for something which upturns the social categorizations that human beings generally give to each other, then that can
Give her
create
an
social
exact
problems.
example. Andrew, give her an exact example of how she is hurting people.
I just
Okay.
did.
No, you didn't.
No, an
Give her.
example.
Like
How am I
something
hurting?
that's specific, sure. So the idea
Yeah.
of creating sexual confusion based around the
How
idea.
is she
Would you if
committing sexual
are you
confusion?
going to let
Wait,
me
wait, wait.
are you going to let me
Let him
finish?
finish.
Okay, you're right. Sorry, nurse.
So we're just talking about this under the perception, the same perception, um, which is being used here, which is that if you do X thing, the social ramifications potentially could be harmful, and therefore that's why you can't do the discriminatory thing. But I think you could make that argument for any person in any group of people. So for the sake of consistency, I don't understand how it could be that it's minority group and that's not okay to discriminate against, but MAGA people are, even if I can make the same arguments of it still hurts them, maybe to a more limited capacity, but still does. So what's the threshold breaker here? You just keep saying it because
Andrew,
they're minorities. I don't get that.
Andrew, here's the issue you're running into. You're not telling us how nurse right there is harming anybody. We're
Yeah,
not
so
talking about some general hypothetical.
okay.
We're talking about her.
The same okay, I'll tell you. The same exact way that you would think that
Be
you just
quiet.
asked me.
Be
So you don't want me
quiet.
to tell
I
you?
am not finished.
Oh,
Be quiet.
okay.
Thank you. How is she hurting anybody? Herself, living her life. How is she hurting anybody?
The same way that a somebody who has a swastika flag on their window at home that nobody can see
Now you can go ahead.
and is oh my god. Okay, I'll answer, but please give me the respect of giving you a full answer. I would just make the same social argument that you would be hurting people the same exact way you would think that a person at home with like a Nazi flag on the wall and nobody knows about it, they're hiding it, is also still hurting or damaging socially society somehow. The same exact way as that. Whatever the social fabric is, and that people are moving against is going to cause some type of societal detriment. You don't live in a bubble, and your actions have some consequence. Do you directly go out and just mog and harm people? Probably not. But that really has nothing to do with the argument we're having.
Once again, how is she harming anybody?
How's the Nazi at home harming anybody?
How is she harming
the same way the
somebody?
Nazi at home is harming people from your view, the same way.
No, okay, so you're saying that is how nurse right here, delirious.
Yes, it would be the same. It would be the same argument. Whatever your perception of how that was harmful would be the same way I would socially say that nurse is harmful.
That she is harming people in whatever way that you want to.
I just did.
No, you didn't. You're giving little hypotheticals.
Okay.
Saying, how is
do you
she,
understand?
How is
okay.
she? God, dude. How is she harming
by
anybody?
Breaking down building blocks of society and family for negative stereotypes?
A person.
Yes, you as an individual contribute to that. Yes, that's correct. Yes, you as an individual contribute to that. Yes, that's correct. The same way the Nazi at home with the flag would be contributing to that from your view. Do you understand now?
How is she doing that?
The same way the Nazi at home with the flag is doing that.
How is she doing
Oh
that?
my God, dude! It's like this is like talking to.
Hold on, the host is talking.
I don't even understand.
I understand where Andrew's coming from. I do. No, I hear what Andrew's saying.
Just why don't you get it, dude?
So in other words, is he saying that you just existing is harming somebody?
The same way you would say a
more or
Nazi
less,
just
yeah.
existing is harming somebody.
Okay, I'm asking the host. Sorry.
But I do want to ask you, Andrew. If you stated earlier. You stated earlier that I am sexually confusing people. How's that?
Well, no. Listen, yes, but what I was saying was you could just make the social claim. If I can make any social claim that I see this as harmful, the same way you would a person who's like privately a Nazi at home is still harmful to society, I would just make the same claim in the opposite direction. It doesn't even have to necessarily map onto reality. It just has to be the perception of the thing, because that's what we're discussing for the purposes of discriminating against groups. Personal perception of bad behavior equals I can discriminate by your logic. So I'm just asking you to be consistent about it. You're asking me for specific individual examples of a person I don't know, tell you how you might personally be doing some outward harm to people, when I could just give you a social categorization that anybody who's inside groupthink I don't like is causing social harm. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But Andrew, she asked
Yes,
how.
1 second. What?
but-
You see how nurse?
Emily-
You see how nurse who has a double-digit IQ understands what I'm saying? Let nurse talk.
Once again,
Okay.
nurse is saying how is she doing it?
Yeah, I just explained it
So-
5 times, dude.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. You just
Emily,
don't.
you
You
have
don't
been here
understand,
for a while.
and there's
That's-
nothing I can
that's
do
not-
about that. I can't do anything about your
well,
lack of
there's nothing I can do
understanding, bro.
about you, dude. So
Can you both
nurse
mute
has
for a
said,
second?
how am I as a trans BIPOC person hurting anybody? And
Yeah.
you went off on this whole little.
Yeah, I
rant.
know because it made sense. I know.
No, it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
at
I
all,
know.
but
Can
okay.
you steel man what I'm saying? Even can you even steel man it?
I
dude?
mean, you're not making any sense whatsoever.
so you can't
I'm
even
sorry,
steel man
miss,
the
could you
position.
Continue.
It's okay. Emily, you've been here for a while. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. I don't get what Andrew's
Okay.
saying.
Okay. Emily, maybe can you translate to Andrew, maybe in simpler words for him to understand what I'm trying to say?
Use small words.
Well, as it pertains to the prompt,
Yes, of course.
yeah. Well, I think the fact is that if you voted for legislation with the purpose of causing harm to a demographic and you are within that marginalized demographic, then of course it stands to reason that you would not be associated with the very type of people that are causing you harm. Right?
That makes
If you
sense
were
to me.
saying-
But it,
okay, so why
yes.
do you disagree with
Well,
that?
here's my rebuttal would just be that this is
No, he doesn't disagree with that. He completely agrees with that. The only thing that he disagrees with is because it's based on he says that business can do the same or friends.
yeah. Why? Just
the
for
opposite
the
way.
sake of consistency, what you're saying to me is based on our perception of your group, you're doing some type of perceived what we consider harm to us. Any other group should be able to make that same justification based on their perception of how you're harming them. If that's the case, then them being discriminatory towards you because of homosexuality, for instance, should be completely fine if you want to hold a consistent worldview here.
Okay, well, then we just bring it back to what we were talking about previously, right? In terms of what possible valid reason could a business have for discriminating against a marginalized community that would put it on the same parallel playing field as somebody that is trying to cut ties with somebody that is purposely causing them harm? How are they even equal?
They don't
Because that
need,
is the
but do you
argument
understand they
that-
don't need to be equal? It's not
No, they
like,
do.
no, they, why do they?
If you're making the argument.
No, they don't. What you smuggled in here is the word equal. Like, let's say it's only, I don't know, 1/14 the harm of the opposite. Who would care? Why would that matter as far as the freedom of association went? As long as the perception is you're doing harm, why would that need to be equal? That's absurd.
Yeah, because if you're creating an argument based on the criteria that is set that we're putting forward in terms of why we would want to cut ties,
Mhm.
then of course it's going to be predicated that you are going to have a counter argument based on that same criteria.
I do,
So
though.
your
I'm giving you the counter
argument-
argument.
Yeah, but you don't. Not if your
I do.
counter argument doesn't meet the same set of criteria. which it
Why?
doesn't.
Well, okay,
Which-
so so in this case, then what you're saying is that if it was the case that Democrats were doing half, or some minority group was doing half the amount of harm to some business owner, as the business owner would be discriminating against them, then it is okay for the minority to discriminate against the business owner?
the point is
No,
to
answer the
direct
question,
harm.
please, and then give me the
Yeah,
qualifier.
No, I'm responding.
Yes or
in the sense
no?
of
Would it
how
yes or
direct
no, and
harm.
then the
No,
qualifier?
I don't even understand your
Okay, so
question.
then listen closely. Let us assume for a moment that you have a business, like a Taco Bell. It was a Taco Bell holder, okay? And whatever the minority group was, right? By that minority group doing bad thing to them, it only caused half of the harm as when the Taco Bell owner did bad thing back, right? Does that then give the minority group a right to do bad thing to the business owner just because they're a minority group and it only does half the damage as if it was the opposite?
Yeah, I think the degree of harm is going to be very important.
So is the answer yes?
For example,
So is
yeah,
it
yeah. For example,
Okay, so it's
I
yes.
said
Okay.
yes, and I'm
Okay.
going to explain why it's
Okay.
yes. For example, say somebody slapped you around the face, but then in turn, as to a result, you then punched them, thus giving them grievous bodily harm.
Yeah.
Which do you think is worse? Do you think the grievous bodily harm or just the mere slap that doesn't leave long-lasting consequences? Clearly, you're going to pick one over the other.
Yeah, I
Right?
would pick
So
that
do
you should be able to
not
punch him back. Yeah.
no, but you would qualify that there's going to be a more severe outcome and more severe harm from having grievous bodily harm than it is to be slapped around the
So then I
face,
just want to let
right?
you know, in order for you to be consistent with this principle, and the bullet that you just bought, the proverbial bullet that you just bought, was as long as you're a minority group, you can do bad things to people. As long as the minority group thinks that if the other person does bad things back, it's worse. Like you
No, no,
basically are giving
because
carte
that's not the
blanche for
that's
people
not
to
the
do bad
premise.
things to other people because they're minorities.
Nope, that's not the premise of the whole entire
You
conversation.
just
We're not.
admitted that that was the case, lady.
Yeah. No, I use that to recognize the degree of harm. But what you're not taking into account is the motivation and the intention for why someone would even do the act to begin with.
Why would that
Right?
matter?
We're talking about, because intention matters in this equation. When a marginalized community wants to cut ties, right, is because they're doing it out of self-defense. They're protecting themselves from a harm that is going to be inflicted. Can you
Okay.
explain to me how that would
Sure.
equate to a businessman
Yeah.
that are simply doing it out of bigotry and self-hatred because
Well,
they don't
let's
want to
say
learn
that the
and
businessman was
educate
yeah, sure. I'll tell
themselves?
you. I'll give you an example. Let's say that the business owner is a heavily religious person and it offends their religiosity to be giving you service, and they would rather just not have your business and not have you come into their business. Now, the perception here is that if they turn down your business, they're doing harm to you. And I would even agree it could be a greater amount of harm to you than to him. But you can't disagree that it's doing harm to him, that he has to serve people who he really wouldn't want to serve. What you're doing is giving carte blanche to one group to basically be able to do greater amounts of harm to another simply because they're minorities.
No, you're being hung up on individual circumstances rather than
You
looking
just
at the
asked me
whole.
for an individual circumstance.
Yeah, applied as a general, as a whole,
That is
right?
applying it to the whole. So we got the
How is it
principle
applying it to
because
the
we
whole?
have your principle, and then I just applied it in an individual case. So you got the macro and the micro.
Explain.
Your principle is as long as a minority group is doing half again the harm as whatever group they're doing it to, that in that group's response would be more harmful as something which is retaliatory, then they should have carte blanche to do that. You just said that. You literally bought that or bit that logical bullet. If that's the case, then I can simply give you an individualistic example, which you asked for, of how you could be doing harm to somebody at only half of the harm they could be doing back to you, and you would consider that to be justified, which basically gives an incentive to minority groups to do harm to the majority.
Yeah, but your whole position doesn't make sense because
It
why
does
on
make
earth would a
sense.
business- No, why on
Okay.
earth would a business person want to cut ties with a person if it's giving them business? That makes no
Because they
sense.
could have very deep religious convictions and they don't care about that the business. So you think in
Okay,
terms of hang on, let me
but
finish.
how
Let me
is
finish.
serving them harm then?
Yeah,
You haven't
because they're
talked about the
religious
harm.
and they don't want to serve them out of their religious principles. And if you make them, obviously that's going to hurt them.
Yeah, but your religious principles is out of choice. You chose that.
Why would that matter though? Do you see what I
Yeah,
mean?
because you made the choice
So
to put
what?
yourself in a position
You
where
made the
you
choice to
believe
go
in,
shopping
and
there.
also, let's not mention,
You made the
you
choice to shop
believe
there.
in scripture. You believe in a scripture that if you want to get your morals from,
Yeah, you
that is
don't need
extremely
to, don't you
problematic,
understand? You don't need to
right?
agree with it. It's about perception by your own metric. So
Yeah,
if that's the
but the problem
case,
is not even justified. It's not even on the same playing field
what?
to
How do you
talk
know what
about
is
somebody
just?
that you've
It's not.
chosen
How is it
versus
not
a group that
justified?
didn't choose anything.
Okay, so
Those are two completely not
did you
even
choose to
analogies.
shop at that business?
What?
Did you choose to shop at that business?
But why are we talking about the person shopping when
Because
we're
you
talking about
just
the
said
businessman
you just
that's
said
supposed to
that the
He's
business
trying to
owner's making a
deflect.
choice to discriminate, which I agree he is, but aren't you making the choice to shop there? So why would you want to shop at a person's shop anyway who was bigoted towards you due to their religion?
Because it may
Unless
be a
it was that
convenience thing.
you wanted to force them to serve you.
No, it's about
It's-
having the equal opportunities, right? You choosing to follow a religion that makes you bigoted is fundamentally different than the person just living them life, wanting to go about their business, right?
Yeah,
And I
but
can
dude.
tell you, but you're also talking
Oh,
about a
man.
scenario that this
Okay.
is probably unknown. Chances are, if a person in a marginalized group knows that you are openly bigoted, I don't think they're gonna want to go in that shop.
Yeah,
Andrew.
except we actually have massive court cases surrounding instances where this has happened, where pairs of homosexuals demanded that a religious person bake their cake. The religious person declined, and they sued them because they refused to serve them. And the thing is like, it doesn't appear to me that they were trying to avoid this place, even though they could have gone to a
Why
dozen
should they
other.
have to avoid the
Yeah,
place
but
is
this.
what we're asking.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I would say that under the logical, consistent principle of host, who I was talking to, who says you should be able to discriminate with people based on
non-immutable characteristics.
Yeah, but the thing is like, why does suddenly non-immutable matter here? Why, if you can discriminate
Because it's
over
something
other,
that's out of your control, whereas religion you can control to follow a religion that has bigoted views
actually, you don't even know that. Like people could be
We do.
genetically hardwired to be alcoholics,
There is
to
no
be
genetic
religious.
Show a study for it.
Actually, there are studies that people are.
There are studies
Yes,
showing
of course.
that genetic
Yes,
gene.
that there are
Like it-
genes. Yes,
Oh,
that there are genes which lead you to
Christ-like
be
genes.
religious. Yes.
Oh, okay. So what gene region is that?
Here, I'll pull up the studies. Religious genes. The
And was it
VMAT2. It's the
by-
VMAT2 gene. Look it up. The VMAT2. Yeah. Look it up.
And that proves that there's a higher power that's.
It doesn't
sentient,
have to prove it,
all-knowing,
dude.
all-powerful.
It all has to
does.
prove that it's an immutable characteristic that
Because
you're
they're doing it
religious.
to please that being.
All it matters is that you have something that's immutable that makes you want to do
And it
X,
proves that
just like
they
have
have
butt
an
sex, dude.
immutable characteristic that is they cannot.
Yeah, they can't
serve
fix their
the people.
genes, bro. They can't fix their genes.
So the anti-gayness is baked into that too.
If it is the case that you have a gene which is inside of you, which is immutable, that leads you towards religiosity.
So you're looking at Wikipedia, the God gene hypothesis.
Yeah, the VMAT2 gene. Yeah.
You are a nut job.
Yeah,
Okay,
by
let's look at this.
Gene
Let's look at it.
Hammer-
Look at it.
No,
It's
no,
all
no.
religious sites that cite this.
Yeah, but
no,
let's
it's not,
let
it's
us-
not
Let's
an
look at
actual
Wikipedia
gene.
since we're not even being like serious here.
By the way, that's not Wikipedia. Wikipedia may
Well,
have
was
that,
the
but there's
one that
actual
pulled it up
studies
first.
on the
So since we're not
VMAT2
being
gene.
serious and we're talking about magic genes about men in the sky and your belief in.
I'm sorry. Are there genes which can lead you to be an alcoholic?
So
are there?
what are the proteins
are-
that
can
are
you-
expressed
bro.
that lead to the development
Yeah.
of the neural pathways that
yeah.
ultimately are hardwired into that cause a Christian belief?
Mhm. So
And
again,
why do
none
some
of those were
people-
my
is it-
claims.
Is it encoding for all religions?
None of those
or
were my
just
claims.
Christians?
None of those were my claims. What was my claim?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what was my
So
claim?
which religion is it referring to?
That's not referring to a specific religion.
You
Oh,
did. You
okay.
did say no. Wait. You did say it's the Jesus gene.
No, I didn't. You did.
Yes, you did.
No, I
no,
didn't.
I didn't.
You just made that up. All I said was
No,
that it
you
was a
actually said
gene.
that it's the
Yeah, I
Jesus-
literally didn't say that.
Okay,
You just
said
made it
it's
up.
A gene that makes you religious, correct?
Yes, there's a gene, or there
You've got
could be. Actually, what I said is there
geneticlifehacks.com.
could be genes which lead you towards. So,
Oh,
so for instance, there's no. Is there a gay gene,
Be
dude?
bold, you're a
Is there a
man,
gay? Is there a gay gene?
Okay. Listen.
Yeah, there
Andrew.
are genetically.
Yeah.
gay
Okay. What are they? Conspiracy theorists. Tell me what these gay genes are. They've never been demonstrated or proven.
Andrew,
is
it must
angry.
suck to suck, but there's no such thing as a religious gene.
Yeah. Listen, there's no such thing as a gay gene. So prove it's immutable.
Why? So we do
Who
have
said
studies
that
on
there's a
that,
gay
and that's
gene?
more believable than
Prove it.
encoding,
Prove it.
Spirituality.
Prove
something
that there's
that's
a gay gene.
non-tangible.
Prove there's a gay
Who
gene.
said there's a gay gene?
Yeah, so then
There
it's
is
not
no
immutable.
one gay
Then what
gene.
makes
You know,
then what makes
what the
homosexuality
reproductive
immutable?
study is?
What makes
Reproductive.
homosexuality immutable
No.
then?
Andrew, who said there's a gay gene?
Yeah, what I'm saying. Here's what my
Who said there's a gay
dude.
gene?
You got to let me speak for 5 seconds.
Andrew, who said
Yeah,
there's a gay gene?
if then homosexuality is not immutable.
Andrew,
Mhm.
who
You would have to say that there is some type of
Andrew,
genetic thing which makes you
Andrew,
gay.
Who said that
You
there
guys,
is a
that
gay
would
gene?
have to be necessarily your position. Is that there's genes that make you gay or can't be immutable?
It's 12 men.
Do you get that now?
Andrew, who said there's a gay gene?
You said it.
Dr. P said that there was a
There are
gay
genetic.
gene.
You
studies.
said
That
it,
doesn't mean
dude.
That there's
I-
one gene
Wait,
to rule
stop.
them all.
Wait. You're saying that I said that, Andrew?
No, the dude who's next to me. I don't know who you
Dr.
are.
Patrick.
Yeah, I don't know who you are.
Okay. So, Dr. Patrick, did you say there's a gay gene?
Yes, he
No, I didn't
did.
say there's a singular gay gene. No, I didn't say that.
Oh man, see, this is the
Andrew just
problem.
doesn't
The problem
understand
is
genetics.
that
Okay, I'm sorry, Andrew. Hold on a second. Dr.
Oh,
Dr.
man.
P, could you please expound on this?
Yeah, so there are studies showing genetic linkages, meaning that a multitude of genes are associated with being gay. There's no one gay gene.
there's not
There are genes
even
that are
proven.
associated with
Yeah,
it.
but there's not
Just
even
because you
proof
have
that
it
these
doesn't
genes cause
also mean everyone's
homosexuality.
gonna be
Hold on
gay.
a second.
Yeah.
Dr. P, are you saying that there's a
It's
correlation but not
multifactorial,
causation?
but has roots in genetics that they've shown
Okay,
in studies.
Dr. P, are you saying there's correlation but not causation?
I'm saying there are a lot of factors to consider.
So there's no gay
So it's a
gene.
so it's a multifaceted thing, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's
but
no
you
gay.
don't
There's
have
no
to
proof of
have
gay
a
genes.
gene
Andrew, I just wanted this last
singular.
question, and then I'll go back on mute. Is
Okay.
it multifaceted, Dr. P?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Everything's multifaceted, dude.
Right. So we at least have genetic linkage studies. You've got nothing other than this.
I gave you the
bad
same.
gene.
I give you the same exact evidence you give me that there's
There's no
possibility.
same exact
Yeah.
evidence.
Are you going to let me
'Cause
even
you're trying
respond?
to associate it with I have this hardwired link to
Didn't say
a
that.
higher power.
Never said it.
Belief.
Nope. Never
right?
said it.
But your choice to listen to that
You're
higher
just
power,
lying, dude.
that's the problem.
I can listen. I can't reason with you if you just lie about my position. Can you
Well,
steel
you're
man
not a
my
very
position?
reasonable person,
Can you
Andrew.
steel man my position?
No.
No, because exactly. But I can steel man yours. That's the difference between us. I listen to what you say, but you don't listen to
No,
what I say.
think that you talk a big game, but you don't actually understand science.
Well, I understand science fine. In fact, I'll prove it to you.
You
Tell
do.
me, what is the scientific method? Tell me.
So I have to
Tell
list
me
off
the
exact
scientific
steps for the
method. Yes,
scientific
you don't even know
method
the
to be a
scientific
scientist.
method, dude. Give me a break. Get out of here with
Oh,
this
okay.
shit.
Sure.
What is it? Just tell me
Okay.
the scientific method. The eighth
is
grader knows it. An
amblyopia?
eighth grader knows it. What is it?
What is Tanner stage 2 of puberty?
Can you tell me what the scientific method is,
Right,
Mr.
so
Scientist?
we can go on all day about terms that I understand scientifically.
You don't know
but
what the
know.
scientific method
So
is,
just
bro.
not- right, you're gonna laugh and you're gonna pretend to paint me like because I don't know the exact steps.
You don't know the steps of the scientific method?
Right. That's all that scientists do. Mad laugh. Yep. Yep. Andrew. Super
You don't
Cool
understand science. What's the scientific method? I don't know what the scientific method
I
is.
didn't say I didn't know.
What is it then?
I said, why do I have to recite?
You don't know what it is. You
specific
don't know what it is,
methodologies?
bro. Come on. Get a grip. You
Okay,
don't know
so
what it
can
is.
You recite them to me.
Of
Can you teach
course.
me?
Of course.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so it starts with observation. It moves into hypothesis. You run an experiment, then you confirm the
Good.
experiment, then you validate the results. That's the fucking scientific
Okay. How are
method.
the results validated?
Well, that would depend on the type of methodology
So
which
give
is
me an
used.
example.
Of which thing? Applied or social sciences?
Just pick one.
Pick one of what?
Just pick one.
You want me
Don't
to
keep-
tell you how
keep
you would
elaborating,
validate? Yeah,
but
so
pick a path.
so if you want to do
What comes next?
yeah, if you want to do applied science, repetition and experiment would
Like
probably
peer review, right?
well, you don't actually need to do peer review to
Oh, you
validate.
don't have to do peer
No,
review.
you
Okay.
don't.
Okay,
You-
so
you
then
don't
why do
have- yeah.
scientists do it?
Yeah, that can be a form of validation, but it's not a necessary
Oh,
one.
okay, it can be. Okay.
Yeah, it
So
can.
what else can you do?
You can just repeat the experiment. That would also be a
You
form
can
of
just repeat the
validation.
experiment,
Yes,
but
correct.
Then how do you get to know if that experiment aligns with the previous experiment?
Because it works
without
at
reviewing
yeah,
it?
yeah. So, depending on the complexity of the experiment and the controls, if you can have unique repetition in the experiment every single time it's done, that would be validation by itself.
Yeah, but
Peer
who
review is not
validates it?
necessary.
Right, but somebody's got to cross-check it. to
You
make sure
can
it's done
well if you're
appropriately,
so
right?
sorry
You
if
can't
I'm
just do
following
an
your
experiment
wait
and
wait
say,
wait
well, my experiment
wait that's the
confirms this
dumbest thing I ever
experiment,
heard.
and nobody
So
else
if
can
you're the last
cross-examine it.
man on Earth, there's no science.
Probably not. You can't do much on your own if you're the last man on the earth, right?
So if you're the last man on Earth,
So
science
instead
doesn't
of going
exist
to
anymore
Google Labs
because a
anymore,
second
Andrew,
person can't
you
validate
admit
it.
That you don't understand peer review because you can't do a study and then say, well, it aligns, but you don't have to double check.
Oh
it.
my God,
Just
that's the
trust me.
funniest shit in the world.
No, you're just saying
Science no
trust me.
longer exists if there's one person. Science can't
No,
exist
scientific
with one
experiments
person.
would be
Scientific
very hard to do
experiments
alone.
can't be verified by the
They
same
can't be
person.
verified,
Yes,
yeah.
they can. You stupid
No,
dolt.
because that would
Yes,
be
they
heavily
can.
biased towards you and a society that is bizarre.
Oh my
in
God!
which
Just
you live
stop,
alone.
dude. You're fucking embarrassing yourself. Just stop.
I'm not embarrassed.
you didn't know the scientific method. You didn't know how that you could
But you couldn't expound on why
validate an
peer review is
experiment,
not
dude.
necessary.
It's not
You see how it's
necessary.
problematic and how you're cherry picking.
Peer review is not necessary to validate an experiment, you dolt.
So how do we make sure that you're doing scientific?
Oh, you have to.
studies appropriately?
You as an individual can still use repetition and experiment to validate it.
Yeah, but
even
somebody's got to check.
they
it, otherwise
don't.
who's
No,
gonna
they
know about
don't.
it?
That's not what's.
Oh, they don't?
No, they don't.
So we just take your word for it.
Show me in the scientific method where secondary validation is necessary for science to occur. Go ahead, I'll wait.
The scientific method is not like some hard, fast rule that everybody follows.
It's
exactly.
literally the hard, fast rule, you idiot.
No.
Yes.
You can call me an idiot all you
Tell
want.
me, I'll tell you what. What's the
You're
alternative to
angry
the
because
scientific
you won't
method?
answer my question.
I'll answer all your
which is,
questions, but
why
bro.
is peer review not necessary?
Because-
if anybody could conduct a study and do
Yes.
whatever they wanted.
No.
And fabricate
Listen.
results, right?
Peer
Which-
review. You can do that with
fabricate
peer
results.
review. You can do it with peer review too. What are
Oh,
you
so
talking
now
about?
That's fabricatable too. So everything's just conspiracy.
No, that would be your idea that you cannot do
No,
science
we
as an
need
individual.
others to check
No,
in
you don't.
outside the
That's
research
not. No, it's
who
not
are
a requirement
blinded
of science.